to the audience who were valiant enough to show up after the whole day, whether you're online or right here, and you could enjoy the weather and the outdoors, but nevertheless. Okay, of course we'll start with doom and gloom. I mean, it's necessary because our goal is to scare you. But there'll be a ray or two of light, or maybe the light at the end of the tunnel, or whatever you prefer. So we'll definitely try to conclude on a more positive note. But first, beware. We're absolutely serious. Now, just a very short forward. If you think that Doomsday is dedicated to the COVID-19 pandemic, you are wrong. This topic was proposed for UTIC 2020 in late January, very early February 2020. And that's why the name of the presentation, because we were preparing for Valentine's Day, actually, and discussing it. And I suggested the topic that had nothing to do with COVID. We were not self-isolating at that moment. And the world, except for Asia, was not scared enough. We were going to discuss the future of our industry, not the immediate future, like how we're going to use machine translation better, or how are we going to get used to other new requirements, but rather to a longer-term perspective here. Okay, so without further ado, let's get to the slides. Okay, so first, the question to you. Has the industry reached its maturity, or it's already overripe? And let's talk. So first of all, the topic I already mentioned, that it has nothing to do with COVID. It touches upon deeper subjects and gloomier subjects. So first of all, why are we thinking that we are reaching or looking forward to doomsday unless we do something or unless we change something in our behavior? The reason is simple. Say, first of all, numerous verticals, numerous vertical markets are switching completely to machine translation or almost completely to machine translation when we're either not post-editing at all or we're post-editing only some small pieces. Whatever we get from our clients is getting more and more fragmented. We're not getting whole documents any longer, not even paragraphs. Sometimes it's a couple of phrases or even part of a phrase, absolutely standalone, absolutely no context. It's very hard to translate it properly, but that's the reality. Moreover, it increases overhead because if you are sent, even in the most automated workflow system, you are not getting a text that you translate. You are getting 50 requests per day, each of them very small, and you have to process them all, you have to figure out what it means, and it's a tiny part. It's challenging, it's stressful, and it's actually less pay, more work. Margins. Any mature industry is marked by two things. First of all, the competition is very high. There are quite a number of big and mid-sized players in the market, and even on the freelance market, there is a lot of supply, and at the same time, because it's mature, the margins are thinning. They're nothing like they used to be, say, in the early 90s. And this is true of any mature industry. The more mature it is, the thinner the margins. Just remember, 20 years ago, how many phone and first smartphone manufacturers there were. So then half of them, or maybe 2/3 of them, disappeared, and the other ones consolidated under a single brand, or maybe a couple brands, just because they could no longer survive. The margins are thinning. And the same is true about translation industry. At the same time, the interesting part, and I mean the COVID-19 pandemic has only kind of exacerbated that. I mean, I've never ever heard about so many webinars, conferences, and each and every participant pretends that the industry is more alive than ever. It's hard to believe. I mean, we're maturing, our margins are thinning, The workflows are more and more fragmented. Humans are partially replaced by empty, and looks like this trend is irreversible. And you're still talking about how exciting the industry is, what incredible prospects it has got. I mean, whom are you kidding, guys? Finally, are we going to continue pretending that we're more alive, or face the reality and think about things we're going to do in order to survive long term? And long term means that, of course, if you're going to end your career within the next 5 to 7 years, most probably you have nothing to worry about. But if you're young enough or ambitious enough, or just do not want to sit idle and watch streaming services like Netflix, or till your garden or whatever, then probably you do not need to be worried, but you need to think about the other ways of how you can complement or change or evolve your services. And this relates both to companies and individuals. Okay. I mean, I've used this photograph. If you remember, some of you have read about them. You probably do not remember them. This is a picture of switchboard operators. It was #1 occupation for women in the United States in the 50s and early 60s. Later on, they were mostly replaced by machines, even though I was very surprised to hear that the world currently still employs approximately 20,000 of these, because some companies prefer a human answering their line rather than an annoying machine. Okay, so that's it about doom and gloom and hope. I really hope that you're already scared enough so that we can proceed with further, even more scary stories, and then to the positive part of it.
Okay, thank you, Leonid. Some recent trends might sound very alarming for the industry professionals. Among them, machine translation. It's a new trend when raw MT is used without any post-editing. If you can understand what this is about, that's fine, no matter how funny and awkward it may look like. You understand that, that's fine. Next is fragmentation plus automation. More and more often you receive, as Leonid already told, only short pieces of text. In many cases, high fuzzy matches sent to you by automated TMSs. You no longer see the big picture. You can't make the whole text look great. Your work is just a small piece in a pile. And sometimes it's a diamond in a compiled dung heap. Sorry. Next, the expectations for text quality have decreased significantly. It's almost okay now to use instant messaging or Twitter style for writing a correspondence. True professionals who can't live without polishing their work again and again may think that their time has passed, and it's hardly possible to survive in this new cruel world. And now we have some special guests.
So now we have a special guest. I've recorded this interview just a couple of days ago. It's pretty fresh. And now you'll hear the thoughts from one of the biggest companies in the world and one of the fastest growing. And Vince is the product manager at AliExpress. And I asked him a single question. And I hope that you're really interested in hearing his answer about whether translators are going to be extinct. English name is Vince, and you are?
I'm product manager in AliExpress. We are trying to make language a kind of strategy to help us to increase the efficiency of the platform, and also just like what we said, reach people from different culture.
A stupid question. Do you think, will human translators be eliminated from the translation production chain in the next 5 to 10 years?
In the next 5 to 10 years, I'm afraid probably you might have already seen the video called Wandering Earth from China. In the video, the protagonist had this device that can understand what the other is saying instantly. What I think is that it might be like that in the future because our neural machine translation technology and because a huge amount of the copper are there to train the engines. However, just like what I had what I had shared with you about cultural exchange, people, they have different background, they have different understanding. As long as the diversity of each area exists, this cultural exchange will exist, and because it's a very it's constant. The change is continuous. So machine is still is always catching up with the changes, and as with changes of this diversity. I think even not only for 5 to 10 years, even longer, as long as humans' diversity is a little bit ahead of the machine still cannot predict this different needs from the people. We still need human to input knowledge, to instruct the machine to do a translation that actually would resonate among different groups of people. It's not only word-to-word translation, just like the baseball cap. Okay, it's a baseball cap, but people's understanding on the baseball cap are different. It's kind of specific type, very diversified kind of baseball cap with a different name. So human can help the machine and to make it more specified. So, but generally, I think the role of the human and machine are different. Usually, it had been the machine helping human to translate, helping the human translator to do the translation, right? We use translation memory, terminology, even we use machine translation to help translator to do that. We use interactive machine translation thing, but later on, what I see in the industry, in this industry, is with the cost estimation algorithm blending into the whole process. It seems that human is not translating; they are curating the output from the machine translation in order to make the machine more human-like, to cover, let's say, 95% of the scenarios that the translation is needed. So, I mean, the role is changed. It had been machine helped translator to translate. Now it's been, now it is translator is curating the corpus to help machine.
Thank you so much, Vince. I really appreciate you finding time to answer this couple of questions, and I really enjoyed your summary. It was a great. Okay. It was a great line. Okay, so just to remind you, I mean the summary of it. Early on, machines helped humans to translate. Now humans are going to help machines to translate by curating the content. Okay, think about it. And this is from one of the companies that's using it extensively and that's growing very fast.
Okay, so what to do and where to run in these dark times? Companies may consider expansion in other countries or markets, and individuals may remember the second foreign language they have been learning studying long ago, but haven't used for some time. And everyone can look for opportunities in the adjacent areas. After all, the language is used to present what? Content. You can switch to a higher level, develop content instead of translating existing one. Subtitling is another potentially interesting area. In the nearest future, some digital TV providers may come to your market, Ukrainian for example, with tons of content, and some of which may need to be localized, including subtitles. Think about standing out in your niche and start offering solutions rather than services. Concentrate on real clients' needs. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay. Just a second. Okay, but there are also major factors you need to consider and think about. First of all, think about affinity, ability to apply your experience, knowledge, skills. What do you like, what do you love to do actually, and what you can do and can sell, more importantly. You need to remember that you will need to be going outside your comfort zone. That may be hard for all of us. Think about advantages and challenges and also short and long-term potential of your decisions.
Yeah, because we shouldn't forget, okay, I hope by this moment you are scared. But the thing is, we shouldn't forget, we should enjoy life. We should be doing something that we're doing well, something that we like to do, something where we feel that we have a certain competitive advantage. And it's very important. So now let's consider some practical examples, some particular areas, and we consider all the scenarios that were mentioned. And let's discuss them a little bit and think about their ramifications and implications. So first of all, the first direction is expansion. Expansion sounds like the simplest one of them. That is, I mean, and it equally applies to companies and individuals. You can expand to the other country or another region or another market. Say you are starting to market your services, say in Turkey, because you expect that they'll be servicing a lot of Ukrainian tourists and they'll need some translation or voiceovers recorded or something. Or you are expanding your services by adding another language that's kind of rusty, but you know it. Or in terms of the company, you're expanding to another country, another market, opening another office, or doing something else. Affinity, it's high because it's the same business. I mean, generally, you know what you're doing. Okay, it's another language, it's another country, it's another culture, but you are well aware of what you're doing. Out of the comfort zone, well, it varies because with some cultures, like say Korean or Chinese, they're pretty different from the cultures, say, in Europe or in the United States. So if you're opening an office there, and believe me, we did that, it's quite a shock, and you go well outside your comfort zone. You have no idea what you're doing. In other cases, when you just add another language or add a subsidiary in some other European country, it may be a little bit easier. Challenges and risks. They are really multifaceted because and extremely varying because, first of all, it's a different culture, different legislation. In some countries, you simply cannot do whatever you got used to do in the areas you operate. And in some countries, it's the other way around. The economy is almost free. You're free to do whatever you want. It's some other conditions like mindsets, markets, personalities, because you always deal with people. If you want to promote your business, you are dealing with people in those countries or in those cultures, and you somehow need to manage all of this configuration. Potential, well, it's great in terms of risk mitigation because one market goes down, the other market goes up. Look at the COVID pandemic. China is already recovering because they've passed the first curve and hopefully the second one. So generally the market there is considerably more alive than it is, say, in Europe. And in Europe, it's considerably more alive in some other areas that were hit hardest, like the US, Brazil, and Russia. Long term, no answer. No idea, because it really depends on where you're going, where you're running, what culture you're trying to penetrate, what country you're going to, and anything. The other line, diversification. Here, there are several avenues to explore. The thing is, Konstantin mentioned some of them, but the interesting part is, how close are these to something you can do? Whether you really can do it. I mean, the fact that content creation is relatively close to content translation doesn't mean much. And the reason is, not all of us were born writers or creators, or whatever they call it. Not all of us like it. Some of us are fine translating, but not so fine writing something. But in terms of challengings, and we're talking about a very diverse area. You can create video, you can create multimedia, you can create e-learning courses, custom e-learning courses. They are on a huge rise due to the COVID pandemic. I mean, they were already on the rise, but now, because huge companies still need to train their personnel, there are a lot of needs. Plus, sometimes they need to educate their buyers. So there's a huge demand for custom e-learning courses or for training videos, and for online tutoring and all these things. In terms of challenging, first of all, it's a high cost of entry because all these areas require equipment, they require knowledge, they require special software, sometimes pretty expensive to purchase, and your typical computer used for translation most probably will not do a very good job of rendering a video or, say, assembling an e-learning course. You can overcome this, but you need to know that it comes at a price. Risks. I would say they're moderate because generally, even if you invest in this and you're not very successful, you'll learn a lot. You'll be better at so many things. Say you try to create content in video. Okay, you haven't been very successful, but you know much more about localizing video or localizing games. So most of this effort or most of this investment is well justified. The hard part is becoming a major or at least a notable player on the market. That's a real challenge. Potential, this is absolutely unlimited. Remember, even at the times of crisis, and I'm actually referring to ancient Rome, people, I mean common people, were demanding two things, and you should remember them very well from history lessons. They were asking for bread and entertainment. Well, they said circus because there was no other entertainment, but in our case, it's streaming video, it's games and online gaming, it's all types of this content. So the demand is absolutely insatiable here. And this means that the potential is completely unlimited. Even if there are many players out there on the market, I mean, say you download a new game on your smartphone, well, you play with it for a couple of days, but then you need another game. It doesn't need to be better. It just needs to be another game, and then another, and then another. If you're not an addict, then probably you know a couple of them. Long term, very positive. Whatever happens, however we evolve, entertainment will still be there. Creating content, the amount of content created is multiplying every year, and most probably it's going to continue multiplying, especially when you diversify in areas like audiovisual. Multimedia localization, it's another area. Relatively close to what we do as translation because it's actually the same thing, just brought to another media. Challenges are very, very similar to what we talked about with content creation. You need equipment. you need people who know how to do that. You need some know-how. You will not be able to master it overnight. And you'll need software, sometimes pretty expensive and complicated, and your regular computers will not run it. That's true. Moreover, I mean, the most important part of it, when you are localizing this content, it's not purely technical. You need to love it. Unless you have people who are true fans, who have played 5 previous editions of the game, who know the history, who know how the characters talk to each other, who know their approaches, their mood swings and everything, you will not be able to create something of value. So it's a huge area. It's going to expand because if one industry has not suffered in this COVID era, it's the game publishing industry. Believe me, they're still doing well. The major problem they had to cope with is how to move most of their developers and other employees online as efficiently and quickly as possible so that they can restart or continue production at an increased pace because the demand has never been higher. They're not suffering, they're actually expanding. And the same applies to localization. They'll need more markets, they'll need more people, they'll be pursuing it with vigor. So the potential is very significant and long-term outlook is very positive. But you either need to love it yourself and be ready to invest, or you need to bring those people on board. And once again, risks are moderate. Yeah, you can spend some amount of money and time and hire some people. You may not be very successful, but you'll learn a very important trade that will help you with some other things. Say when you decide to create content or record audio, or I don't know, maybe you'll tutor somebody online and all those skills will be quite useful. Web design and page setting, and many other things. Okay, risks are moderate, of course, because actually you do not need a huge investment, even though, of course, you need the skills and the software and sometimes the equipment and everything. Potential, I would say medium to high. It's not as high as with creating or game localization, but when it comes to web design, the demand is still very high. I do not think it's as high as with content creation or game localization and entertainment localization, but it's pretty high, pretty reliable with a good long-term outlook, even though I would say it's probably a little bit more limited because the companies only need that many websites or landing pages or something like that, and probably they're not ready to reinvest and redesign every year or 2 years. So generally, this area, of course, the sites will be updated and changed and everything, but most probably the demand will be more limited. And given that there are some very strong players out there in the market, it's not that easy to compete with them. On the other hand, the investment is lower. And once again, you'll learn a couple of things that are very important. Once again, I want to reiterate that we're talking about both individuals and companies. It's fully applicable to both kinds of translation providers. Other areas, you can consider teaching, yoga classes, whatever you like. Just give yourself a second chance. Think about areas where you are strong, where you have a competitive advantage, areas that you really like or maybe love, areas that you think will bring you to the future and where you have a natural advantage.
Okay, so what did we do at Logos IT? We combined all 3 approaches. We started to provide new services and develop existing ones, like content creation. We also started to work on the markets that were new for us, China and Korea, for example, far more actively. Our new slogan, just a moment, sorry. Yes. Our new slogan could be, it's all about content. We intensified content creation rather than translating it, we create content, and continue to develop multimedia localization, including games and web design areas.
Okay, so now a small break, because you're already tired. We're nearing the end of the presentation, but this is one of the things we did. Okay, so that's one of the areas we diversified into.
Okay, thank you. Talking about specialization, we concentrated on our strong points, like language quality assurance and building solutions. For example, project portal and LQA portal. The more expertise you need, the less competition you will have, and the more you can get from the situation.
Absolutely. Okay, so just continuing that, turnkey LQA solutions, because, everybody talks about quality. Alexander touched upon it. Many other people prior to him touched upon it. But the more we translate using the machine or even generate using the machine, the more we need to check it, the more we need to predict, the more we need to assess on the run, because we need to know whether we're exposed, whether people will at least understand whatever was translated, or whether we are really running the risk and being sued for publishing something absolutely unacceptable, politically incorrect, or exposing the company in a very bad way. So that's one of the areas we addressed at Logros IT, and we have this solution here. The other one's creating a portal for customers who do not want to have sophisticated workflows, because they just want to send you a file. It needs to be easy. So you do something with it, you translate it, or you do quality assurance, and they get it back online, and it's all seamless online workflow, plus they get a quote, they can see whatever they've ordered within a quarter and all that stuff. So that's where we diversified. Yes, and that's the real pie chart showing what we are doing now. So the thing is, believe it or not, but translation and localization account for less than 50% of the company's global revenue. The bigger half, constitutes game localization, which is a big thing, 20%, creative services, 18%, and technical services and language services, 10 and 7. So once again, we do not know the right way. We do not have the silver bullet. We have no idea whether we're doing it right or not. We've put the eggs in one basket, not in one basket, but in multiple baskets, and we hope that we've done the right thing. And we tried to be honest with you and consider various scenarios and talk about risks, affinity, various other implications. And we're very open to the discussion, to your questions, to your ideas, to your suggestions, to your criticism, and whatever you've got in stock for us. And thank you so much, actually, for your patience. and being present here or listening online despite the fact that it's already early evening. And maybe some of you would like a cup of coffee or just stroll in the park or dive into the river. Thank you so much.
Friday evening.
Oh, Friday evening, my God, it's a happy hour, or maybe an unhappy hour for you. Thank you so much once again, and your ideas, criticism, comments, questions are very, very welcome. Okay, anybody wants to ask a question from the audience?
So the first question is, first of all, thank you very much for such an insightful presentation, really. I refreshed myself and I was listening to it. Yes, so the question is, are there any other fields that you're going to major in future? Is that all? Are you satisfied with what you have? Is it enough of diversification for you? Or maybe you're going to continue this, and what will it turn into if so? Thank you.
Well, a great question with a subtext, I would say. Well, so first of all, I will emphasize, in our view, it's a triangle. It's specialization, that is doing something better and delving deeper than the others and providing some specialized services or product. Second, it's expansion, be it geographical, language expansion or whatever. And only the third one is diversification. It's not the only solution, as some experts in the industry try to emphasize. They are omitting the other two. So it's important to think about them as a, well, not an unholy trinity. So these are the three things you should consider, not just one. Second, no, we're never satisfied. First of all, because otherwise you're not entertained enough. Second, because you've already done something, you've invested into something, you want something new, just to continue being entertained, to continue being alive. I mean, I've been in this industry for quite some time, Fyodor as well, and we really need to be excited about something new. Regrettably, we're not ready to share, because something that's not a final product, that's not on the market yet, I apologize, but we're not ready to share. But believe me, we're not going to stop where we are.
I just wanted to add, to underline, if it's legal, if we can do it, if we are going to get paid for it, we will do it.
Yeah. Even if it's almost legal, we'll most probably do that.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. And my question will be egoistic, maybe. As a freelancer, I understand perfectly what you say about the first two elements, like specialization. I think I might move a bit further. Okay. Well, what you said about specialization. You understand me, yeah. And my question about the third element, diversification. Being a non-creative person at all, what is the easiest path for me to move to some better future in terms of diversification? You understand the question? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I mean, my first advice has nothing to do with our profession. It's purely psychological. It comes from my wife. Do not underestimate or do not undersell yourself. That's the first thing. Even if you're too critical of yourself and you think of yourself as a non-creative person, it doesn't mean you are not a creative person. It means that you're probably overshadowed by something, or you are too much afraid to go there. But if this is not your first choice, you do not want to write content, you do not want to start creating funny videos tomorrow or something like that, there are plenty of paths to evaluate. But as I try to emphasize, I cannot give you a universal piece of advice because, first of all, you listen to yourself. Where you are strong. What hobbies do you have that you can try to monetize? Which areas are you strong in that you've never used? Because maybe you've, studied translation, but you were also pretty strong when, I don't know, when you were at school or when you were at the university or wherever. You were strong maybe in a couple other things. Maybe you're very good with people in organizing events or something like that. Maybe you're pretty good selling services or advertising something just because people believe you. And that's important because you're sociable, you're nice enough, you can easily adapt to something. Maybe you'll be the next yoga star. That's the great thing about it. I cannot list a particular, say, table, or I cannot publish a table. Okay, so these are diversification scenarios 1 to 29. They are endless, and you should listen to yourself and think about your strengths. Think about the things you've forgotten or you didn't explore because you were concentrating on your primary area and were not doing. I'm sorry, I may sound vague, but I cannot read your mind or learn your biography from a distance, regrettably. So the thing is, but it should be inside you. Most well-educated people who work in our industry are, believe me, they are multi-talented. And I know that. And you should know this about yourself. Thank you, and sorry for being too vague.
Example of your wife? You said your wife made it, like being...
No, my wife, just every time I'm doing something wrong in her opinion, she says, never underestimate yourself, never undersell yourself. You deserve everything.
We have a question from our online attendees to further learn it. So, how do you feel about the potential for voice and AI data services? That is a question.
Voice and AI data services, yes. As far as I understand, this is about voice recognition and text-to-speech and speech-to-text. If I'm wrong, please correct me. If I'm not, so I think we'll not experience some revolution in the current few years because we are already at a very advanced level, and 95% of speech is recognized correctly. And speech generation and neural AI engines like deepfake make really fantastic things. So I think we already are at a very advanced level, and I don't know what to add here.
Well, I have a couple of words to add here. Well, first of all, if you are a translator and you are not translating written text, but you're translating online or you're doing subtitles, something like that, do not think you are safe. A lot of automation programs are being improved as we speak, especially the AI area. Most subtitles in English are generated automatically as the programs run. And whoever has seen TV in the US broadcasts, like sporting events or live shows, they will see that while these subtitles are not perfect, they're very good already. So no human services are required, and given that people need them live, I mean, it's not a movie that you stream when you want. It's a real sporting event or a newscast or a live show, and everybody is interested in being in complete sync. The same goes about voiceovers. Very soon, machines will do a significant part of it. So that is why we were emphasizing content generation, because that's one area where humans are still kind of better and we're more protected, because even if machine helps us, there's still a lot of space for imagination, where we can fly, where we can actually divert the movement, because the machine doesn't create for itself, it creates for us humans. And that's where we are still valuable and important. When it comes to the other aspect, if we're talking about the data science aspect of AI development, it's a great area, and there is a huge shortage of data scientists and those who are working on AI, training AI, and they have rather lucrative salaries, believe me. But the problem is, it's not so easy to move from a translator to an AI scientist or an AI expert. That is why we didn't mention it. I mean, there are a lot of very nice, very interesting, great occupations, but I'm not sure that most of the translators or whoever works in the industry can easily bridge that gap. I mean, it's the other aspect of this.
Thank you so much. And we have a question from Pavel Dunaev. Hello, Pavel. So he says, it was great. Can you tell a bit about arrangements for content creation? They are not paid per word, obviously, but how do you define terms and conditions?
Oh, Pavel, I truly appreciate your question, as usual, because they are always very thoughtful and kind of in-depth. That's the question that our business development asks all the time. How do we sell these services? Because clients who are paying money, they need to kind of measure it somehow in a kind of an easy to understand way, in a tangible way. So when you create, the typical thing there is that we use absolutely different units. So for videos or audio, you typically count in seconds or minutes of created or localized video. That includes the fact that you translate it or translate the subtitles or just do the voiceovers or something. You have to actually prepare the translations. Sometimes there is a question of timing or lip sync or something, because you have to re-edit them multiple times so that they do not only read well, they sound well, and they're timed accordingly, and they work well in this environment. And then there is another area that you need to post-edit the sound, that is post-process it, and sometimes it takes hours. But still, what the client pays for, they pay for the video. See, the video you've seen, the Kaspersky one, it's 60 seconds, and they're ready to pay so much for a short video that is 30 or 60 seconds. So typically, simplified rates are applied. Typically, it's for a second or a minute of processed, ready to deliver video or audio, or in terms of e-learning courses, it's the time it takes to take the course. So you plan the course, say one lesson is 40 to 45 minutes. We just discussed with Alexander, because people lose focus after that. That's why we are timing our presentation so that it took 45 minutes together with all the other things, because after that we need to get interactive. So we try to simplify it. So we charge by minute, or we charge by hour, or by second of created content, and try to include as much as possible there. Plus, there are several separate tasks that are charged per task. Say when you do live casting for AAA computer games, where the publisher insists on selecting particular voices, they need to approve them because the characters should sound adequate to the original version. There you also say charge for live casting session or something, but it's typically simple and easy to understand and well structured. So it's an absolutely different structure. It's not word related, it's rather content size related, if I may. I hope I answered the question. If I didn't, I can delve into details.
У нас нет времени на то, чтобы подробно.
Okay. Any more questions? Yeah, one small one, because Fyodor has a presentation in a different hall in 3 minutes.
I'm so sorry. As a Korean interpreter and translator, I'm just wondering about some of the more unexpected things that you encountered while trying to open business in Korea. Just curiosity.
Okay, a very brief answer. Everything. The culture is completely different. Expectations are completely different. Even knowledge of English varies because people occupying high posts in Korean companies are typically older people who do not know English well, because Koreans were a relatively closed society up until maybe 20 years ago. So people who are making decisions, they do not speak English well. I mean, that's the typical thing. And because of that, you need local people whom you need to trust, who can deliver the message and who and develop the content. And the second thing that is probably very unusual, say for European or especially Ukrainian culture, Ukrainians are extremely hospitable. If you have a foreigner, or say the same can be said about Poland, if you see a foreigner who has some problems or trouble navigating or finding something or doing something, you're ready to help. You'll get out of your skin to help. In Korea, Koreans are first-rate people, and the foreigners were typically considered second-rate people. It's not that they're not helpful, but centuries of isolation led to an absolutely different culture. It's in a European's viewpoint. I do not mean any cultural insult, for God's sake. This is a very xenophobic culture. It's Koreans first. So you have to kind of break this barrier. And nowadays, it's being broken because younger generations are considerably more exposed to the world culture. They typically take a semester or two abroad. They start in Australia, learned not only the language but the culture. But the older generations are very reserved. They're kind of scared of foreigners. They do not trust them. And if you're a foreigner, if you look like me, you will not sell anything there. I mean, I can sell almost everywhere except for Japan and Korea. There, I'm almost helpless. I just have to sit there like the boss and just pretend that I understand what's going on because they're talking in Korean and using their own slang, their own terminology, their own approaches, arguing extensively, and I have no idea. Okay, hopefully, I mean, that was the brief answer because everything was a shock. Thank you so much once again. We really appreciate you. We're a wonderful audience, and we especially appreciate the fact that instead of the happy hour, you were here with us. Thank you. Okay, one more thing. I mean, you are free to leave, but we were listening to your questions very attentively. And the person who've asked the best question will get a special prize from Logos IT that we prepared, wherever and whoever you are. The same applies to the next presentation. That is why you really should go and listen to Fyodor and ask a smart question, because you have a chance to win another prize from Logos IT. And we're not telling you what the prize is, but believe me, it's good enough. You'll enjoy it. Thank you.